The harsh fluorescent lights of Westbrook High's cafeteria buzzed overhead, casting an unflattering glow on the sea of designer clothes and perfectly coiffed hair. At the center of it all stood Lily Evans, her second-hand uniform hanging loosely on her thin frame, a stark contrast to the sea of wealth surrounding her. She clutched her tray of free lunch, knuckles white with tension as she searched for an empty seat. Well, a silky voice cut through the din. If it isn't our resident charity case. Lily's heart sank as she recognized the voice of Veronica Chase, Westbrook's undisputed queen bee. The statuesque blonde sauntered over, flanked by her loyal minions, each sporting matching smirks of disdain. I didn't realize the soup kitchen was handing out Westbrook uniforms now, Veronica sneered, eyeing Lily's ill-fitting clothes. The cafeteria erupted in cruel laughter, the sound a dagger to Lily's already fragile self-esteem. I have every right to be here, Lily stammered, fighting to keep her voice steady. I earned my scholarship fair and square. Veronica's perfectly plucked eyebrow arched. Oh sweetie, she cooed, false sympathy dripping from every word. Don't you know? Nothing's fair in this world. Especially not for little nobodies like you. With a flick of her manicured hand, Veronica knocked Lily's tray to the ground. The clatter of plastic on linoleum echoed through the suddenly silent cafeteria. Lily felt hot tears pricking at the corners of her eyes as she stared at her spilled lunch, her only meal of the day. Oops, Veronica giggled, her entourage joining in. Looks like you'll have to go dumpster diving for dinner. Again. As Lily knelt to clean up the mess, desperately trying to salvage what she could, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. Looking up, she met the kind eyes of Jack Thompson, Westbrook's star quarterback and the object of every girl's affections. Here, he said softly, offering her his own lunch tray. Take mine. I'm not hungry anyway. Veronica's eyes narrowed dangerously. Jack, she hissed, what are you doing? But Jack ignored her, helping Lily to her feet. Don't listen to them, he whispered. You belong here just as much as anyone else. For a moment, Lily allowed herself to hope. But as Jack led her to an empty table, she couldn't shake the feeling that this small act of kindness would come at a terrible price. Asterisk. Later that evening, Lily trudged home through the rain-slicked streets of the rundown neighborhood she called home. The dilapidated houses and boarded-up storefronts were a far cry from the manicured lawns and gleaming mansions of her classmates. As she approached her own weathered apartment building, a familiar dread settled in her stomach. The sounds of shouting and breaking glass filtered down from the third floor. Lily's shoulders slumped. Her stepfather was at it again. Taking a deep breath, she climbed the creaking stairs, praying that her mother was okay. As she reached their door, a bottle came flying out, shattering against the wall inches from her head. You ungrateful witch, her stepfather's slurred voice boomed. After everything I've done for you. Lily burst through the door to find her mother cowering in the corner, a fresh bruise blooming on her cheek. Without hesitation, Lily placed herself between them. Leave her alone, she shouted, her voice stronger than she felt. Her stepfather's bloodshot eyes narrowed. You, he growled. Little Miss Scholarship. Think you're better than us now, huh? No, Lily said, standing her ground even as fear coursed through her veins. I just want a better life. For all of us. Better life? He laughed bitterly. There's no better life for people like us. We're born in the gutter, and that's where we'll die. As he raised his hand to strike, Lily braced herself for the blow. But it never came. Instead, her mother's trembling voice broke the tension. That's enough, Frank, she said, rising shakily to her feet. I won't let you hurt her. Not again. Frank's face contorted with rage. You dare stand up to me? After everything I've done? Everything you've done? Lily's mother laughed, a hollow sound devoid of humor. You mean drinking away every penny we have? Beating us when the mood strikes? Some provider you are. For a moment, the apartment was eerily silent. Then, with a roar of fury, Frank lunged at Lily's mother. But Lily was faster. She grabbed a nearby lamp and swung with all her might. The sickening thud of impact was followed by Frank's body crumpling to the floor. "Oh God," Lily whispered, the lamp slipping from her fingers. "Is he?" Her mother quickly checked Frank's pulse. "He's alive," she said, relief and disappointment warring in her voice. "Just knocked out." Lily sank to her knees, adrenaline giving way to exhaustion. "What are we going to do?" Her mother's eyes hardened with determination. "We're leaving. Tonight. Pack only what you need, we're never coming back here." As Lily scrambled to gather their meager belongings, her mind raced. Where would they go? How would they survive? But as she caught sight of her mother's resolute expression, she knew that anywhere was better than here. Little did Lily know that this night would set in motion a chain of events that would change her life forever and reveal secrets that had been buried for far too long. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next morning, Lily found herself staring out the grimy window of a Greyhound bus, the unfamiliar landscape of rural America rolling by. Her mother sat beside her, clutching a worn duffel bag containing all their worldly possessions. "Where are we going?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Her mother's eyes, usually dulled by years of abuse, now held a spark of something. Hope? Determination? "To see an old friend," she replied cryptically. "Someone who owes me a favor." As the bus lumbered on, Lily's thoughts drifted back to Westbrook High. By now, Veronica and her cronies would be reveling in her unexplained absence. Jack might wonder where she was, but would he really care? The fantasy of belonging had been shattered, leaving only the harsh reality of her circumstances. Hours later, the bus whizzed to a stop in a small town that seemed frozen in time. Quaint storefronts lined the main street, and American flags fluttered from every porch. The sign welcomed them to Millbrook, population 2,534. "This is us," Lily's mother announced, gathering their bags. As they stepped off the bus, the warm summer air enveloped them. Lily breathed deeply, savoring the absence of city smog. For a moment, she allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, things would be different here. Their footsteps echoed on the empty sidewalk as they made their way down Main Street. Lily couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching them from behind lace curtains, curiosity piqued by the arrival of strangers. Finally, they stopped in front of a modest two-story house, its white paint peeling slightly in the summer heat. Lily's mother took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders before marching up to the front door. The woman who answered was the last person Lily expected to see. Impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, with perfectly coiffed silver hair, she looked like she'd stepped out of a society magazine. Her eyes widened in shock as she took in the bedraggled pair on her doorstep. "Rose?" the woman gasped. "Is that really you?" Lily's mother, Rose, managed a weak smile. "Hello, Margaret. It's been a long time." Margaret's gaze flicked between Rose and Lily, confusion evident on her face. "What on earth happened to you? And who is this?" Rose's hand found Lily's shoulder, squeezing gently. "This is my daughter, Lily. And we need your help." Margaret's expression softened. "Of course," she said, stepping aside. "Come in, both of you. We have a lot to talk about." As Lily crossed the threshold, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a world she didn't belong in. The interior of the house was immaculate, filled with antiques and artwork that screamed old money. It was a far cry from the squalor she'd grown up in. Margaret led them to a sunlit sitting room, gesturing for them to take a seat on a plush sofa. Lily perched on the edge, afraid to dirty the pristine fabric with her threadbare clothes. "Now," Margaret said, settling into an armchair across from them. "Tell me everything." And so, Rose began to speak. She told Margaret of the years of abuse, of Frank's alcoholism and violence, of the poverty that had ground them down, stealing every ounce of hope, and finally, of their desperate flight in the dead of night. As the story unfolded, Lily watched Margaret's face. The older woman's expression cycled through shock, anger, and finally, a deep sadness. "Oh, Rose," Margaret sighed when the tale was done. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" Rose's eyes filled with tears. "I was ashamed," she whispered. "I thought I could handle it on my own. That I could protect Lily." Margaret reached out, clasping Rose's hand in her own. "You're here now," she said firmly. "And I promise you, things will be different." Turning to Lily, Margaret's gaze softened. "My dear," she said gently, "I know this must all be very confusing for you. But I want you to know that you're safe here. Both of you are." Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. The events of the past 24 hours felt like a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. Part of her was still waiting to wake up in her cramped bedroom, the sounds of the city filtering through thin walls. "Now," Margaret continued, her tone becoming businesslike, "we need to get you both settled. Rose, I insist you stay here with me. There's plenty of room, and it will give us a chance to catch up." The way Margaret hesitated made Lily wonder just what kind of history her mother shared with this elegant stranger. "As for you, young lady," Margaret said, focusing on Lily, "I think it's best if we enroll you in Millbrook High. You'll be starting your senior year, correct?" Lily nodded mutely, her mind reeling at the thought of yet another new school. "Excellent," Margaret said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I happen to be on the school board. I'll make sure everything is taken care of." As Margaret swept out of the room to make arrangements, Lily turned to her mother. "Mom," she whispered urgently. "What's going on? Who is this woman?" Rose's eyes were distant, lost in memories. "Margaret and we grew up together," she said softly. "She was my best friend, once upon a time. But she's so..." Lily struggled to find the right word. "Rich." A sad smile played at the corners of Rose's mouth. "Things weren't always like this, Lily. There's so much you don't know. About me, about our family." Before Lily could press for more information, Margaret returned, a triumphant smile on her face. "It's all arranged," she announced. "Lily, you'll start at Millbrook High on Monday. I've told them you're my niece, visiting for the year. It will be easier that way, trust me." Lily's head spun. "Niece?" A lie, right from the start. But as she opened her mouth to protest, she caught sight of her mother's pleading expression. Whatever was going on, Rose clearly thought this deception was necessary. "Thank you," Lily managed, forcing a smile. "That's very kind of you." Margaret beamed. "Think nothing of it, dear. Now, let's get you both settled in. I'm sure you're exhausted after your journey." As Margaret led them upstairs to their new rooms, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she was stepping into a world of secrets and half-truths. Who was Margaret, really? And what was her connection to Rose? More importantly, who was Lily herself? For the first time in her life, she realized how little she truly knew about her own history. As she lay in bed that night, in a room larger than their entire apartment back home, Lily made a silent vow. She would uncover the truth, no matter what it cost her. Because somewhere in the tangle of lies and long-buried secrets, she knew she would find her true identity. Little did she know that the path to that truth would be paved with heartache, betrayal, and a love that would shake the very foundations of everything she thought she knew. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Monday morning dawned bright and clear, the late summer sun casting a golden glow over Millbrook. Lily stood in front of the full-length mirror in her new room, barely recognizing the girl staring back at her. Gone were the threadbare hand-me-downs and scuffed shoes. In their place was a crisp white blouse, a pleated skirt that probably cost more than a month's rent back home, and shiny leather loafers. Her wild curls had been tamed into submission, falling in glossy waves around her shoulders. "You look beautiful, darling," Margaret's voice came from the doorway. She swept into the room, adjusting Lily's collar with a practiced hand. "Every inch a Millbrook girl." Lily forced a smile, fighting the urge to squirm under Margaret's scrutiny. The past few days had been a whirlwind of shopping trips and etiquette lessons, all aimed at transforming her into someone worthy of being Margaret Sinclair's niece. "Remember," Margaret said, her voice low and urgent. "Your mother is my sister, traveling abroad for work. You're staying with me to finish your senior year at a prestigious school. No one can know the truth, understand?" Lily nodded, the weight of the lie settling heavily on her shoulders. She hated deceiving people, but her mother had insisted it was necessary. "For our safety," she'd said, though she refused to elaborate on what, exactly, they were hiding from. A car horn sounded from outside. "That'll be Ethan," Margaret said, smoothing Lily's hair one last time. "He's agreed to show you around school today." Ethan Sinclair, Margaret's grandson, had arrived the day before. With his chiseled features and easy charm, he was every bit the golden boy Lily had come to expect from wealthy families. But there was a kindness in his eyes that had put her at ease, if only slightly. As Lily made her way downstairs, she caught sight of her mother in the kitchen. Rose looked different. The perpetual worry lines had begun to smooth out, and there was color in her cheeks for the first time in years. "Have a good day, sweetheart," Rose said, pulling Lily into a tight hug. "Remember, you deserve to be here just as much as anyone else." Lily clung to her mother for a moment, drawing strength from her embrace. Then, squaring her shoulders, she stepped out into the bright morning sun. Ethan was leaning against a sleek convertible, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine ad. "Ready for your grand debut?" he asked with a grin. Lily managed a weak smile in return. "As I'll ever be." The drive to Millbrook High was short, but it gave Lily a chance to take in her new surroundings. The town was picture-perfect, all manicured lawns and white picket fences. It was a far cry from the gritty streets she'd grown up on. As they pulled into the school parking lot, Lily's stomach clenched. The building before her was imposing, all red brick and ivy-covered walls. Students milled about on the front lawn, their laughter and chatter a reminder of just how out of place she felt. "Don't worry," Ethan said, sensing her apprehension. "You'll fit right in. Just stick with me, and you'll be fine." Lily took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. As she stepped out of the car, she felt the weight of dozens of curious stares. Whispers rippled through the crowd, and she caught snippets of conversation. "Who's the new girl? Is that Ethan Sinclair's girlfriend? I heard she's Margaret Sinclair's niece." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her lower back, guiding her towards the main entrance. "Ignore them," he murmured. "They're just curious. It's not every day we get a new student, especially one with connections to the Sinclairs." As they walked, Lily couldn't help but marvel at the differences between Millbrook High and her old school. Here, everything gleamed with an air of privilege, from the state-of-the-art computer lab visible through floor-to-ceiling windows to the meticulously landscaped courtyard. First stop, the admin office, Ethan announced, steering her down a bustling hallway. We need to pick up your schedule and locker assignment. The office was a hive of activity, with harried-looking staff shuffling papers and answering phones. A stern-faced woman looked up as they approached the counter. "Ah, you must be Lillian Evans," she said, her tone clipped but not unkind. "We've been expecting you. I'm Mrs. Hendricks, the assistant principal." Lily winced inwardly at the use of her full name. She'd always been just Lily, but managed a polite smile. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Hendricks." The woman handed over a stack of papers. "Here's your schedule, locker information, and a map of the school. I trust Mr. Sinclair will show you around?" She raised an eyebrow at Ethan, who nodded dutifully. As they left the office, Ethan glanced at Lily's schedule. "Looks like we have a few classes together," he said with a grin. "Including first period. Come on, I'll show you to your locker on the way." They navigated the crowded hallways, Lily trying desperately to memorize the layout. Her locker was in a prime location, close to most of her classes. As she fumbled with the combination, a statuesque blonde sauntered up, flanked by two equally glamorous girls. Well, the blonde drawled, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "If it isn't Ethan Sinclair playing tour guide. Aren't you going to introduce us to your new friend?" Ethan's easy smile faltered slightly. "Amber," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "This is Lily Evans. She's staying with her aunt, Margaret Sinclair, for the year." Amber's eyes narrowed, a calculating look crossing her face. "Margaret Sinclair's niece? How interesting. I don't recall Margaret mentioning a sister." Lily's heart raced, the lie sitting uncomfortably on her tongue. "My mother travels a lot for work," she managed, the rehearsed story sounding hollow even to her own ears. "She and Aunt Margaret aren't very close." Amber hummed, clearly unconvinced. "Well, Lily, welcome to Millbrook High. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other." As Amber sashayed away, her minions in tow, Ethan let out a low whistle. "Sorry about that," he said, running a hand through his hair. "Amber can be intense. She's used to being the center of attention." "Let me guess," Lily said wryly. "Queen Bee?" Ethan chuckled. "Something like that. Come on, we'd better get to class before the bell rings." As they hurried down the hallway, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that she just made a powerful enemy. Amber's scrutiny had been uncomfortably reminiscent of Veronica back at Westbrook. Different school, same games, she thought bitterly. Their first class was Advanced English Literature, taught by a wizened old man named Mr. Thorne. As Lily took her seat next to Ethan, she felt a flutter of excitement. Despite everything, literature had always been her escape, her one true passion. Mr. Thorne began the class by announcing their first major project of the year, a presentation on a classic novel of their choice. "You'll be working in pairs," he said, peering over his wire-rimmed glasses. "And since we have a new student joining us, I think it's only fair that Miss Evans gets first pick of partners." All eyes turned to Lily, who felt her face flush under the scrutiny. She opened her mouth, ready to choose Ethan out of sheer familiarity, when a quiet voice spoke up from the back of the room. "I'll work with her, if that's all right." Lily turned to see a boy with messy dark hair and intense green eyes looking at her. There was something in his gaze, a mix of curiosity and recognition, that made her heart skip a beat. Mr. Thorne nodded approvingly. "Excellent, Mr. Hawthorne. Miss Evans, I think you'll find Noah to be an exemplary partner. He's one of our top students." As the rest of the class paired off, Noah made his way to the empty seat on Lily's other side. "Hi," he said, offering a shy smile. "I'm Noah. Welcome to Millbrook." "Thanks," Lily replied, finding herself oddly at ease in his presence. "I'm Lily. It's nice to meet you." As they began discussing potential novel choices, Lily couldn't help but notice the way Ethan was watching them, a slight frown creasing his forehead. But before she could dwell on it, the bell rang, signaling the end of class. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of new faces and information overload. By the time lunch rolled around, Lily's head was spinning. She followed Ethan to the cafeteria, marveling at the gourmet offerings that put her old school's mystery meat to shame. "Come on," Ethan said, leading her to a table already occupied by a group of students who exuded an aura of effortless cool. "I want you to meet my friends." As they approached, Lily's steps faltered. Sitting at the head of the table, holding court like a queen on her throne, was Amber. The blonde's eyes narrowed as she caught sight of them. "Everyone," Ethan announced, seemingly oblivious to the tension. "This is Lily." "Lily, meet the crew, you already know Amber, and this is Tyler, Madison, Zach, and Olivia." A chorus of greetings rang out, some more enthusiastic than others. Lily took the empty seat next to Olivia, a pretty brunette with kind eyes. "So, Lily," Amber said, her voice saccharine sweet. "Tell us about yourself. What brings you to our little town?" Lily swallowed hard, the rehearsed story sticking in her throat. "Well, Mind if I join you?" Lily looked up, relief flooding through her as she saw Noah standing there, tray in hand. Without waiting for an answer, he slid into the seat on her other side. Amber's eyes flashed with annoyance. "Hawthorne," she said coolly. "This is a surprise. Slumming it with the popular kids today?" Noah seemed unfazed by her barbed comment. "Just thought I'd welcome our new classmate," he said with a shrug. "Besides, Lily and I are partners for Thorne's project. Might as well get to know each other, right?" As Noah engaged Lily in a discussion about their English assignment, she felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. But she couldn't shake the feeling that she was caught in the middle of some unspoken drama, a pawn in a game whose rules she didn't understand. The rest of the week passed in much the same fashion. Lily threw herself into her studies, determined to prove that she belonged at Millbrook academically, if nothing else. She found herself gravitating towards Noah, drawn to his quiet intelligence and wry sense of humor. They spent hours in the library, ostensibly working on their English project but often veering off into passionate debates about literature and life. Ethan, for his part, seemed torn. He continued to play the role of protective friend, always ready with a smile or a word of encouragement. But Lily couldn't help but notice the way his eyes followed her when he thought she wasn't looking, or the slight edge to his voice when Noah was around. It was Friday afternoon when things came to a head. Lily was at her locker, gathering her books for the weekend, when she felt a presence behind her. She turned to find Amber standing there, flanked by her ever-present entourage. "So, Lily," Amber said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "There's a party tonight at Tyler's lake house. Everyone who's anyone will be there. Consider this your official invitation." Lily blinked in surprise. After a week of thinly veiled hostility, this sudden overture was unexpected. "Oh, thanks," she stammered. "That sounds fun." Amber's smile widened, reminding Lily of a shark circling its prey. "Great. Oh, and feel free to bring your little study buddy. What was his name again?" "Noah?" As Amber sauntered away, Lily felt a sinking sensation in the pit of her stomach. Something about this didn't feel right. But before she could dwell on it, she felt a gentle touch on her arm. Hey, Noah said, his green eyes warm with concern. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Lily managed a weak smile. I'm fine. Just. Amber invited us to a party tonight. At Tyler's lake house. Noah's eyebrows shot up. Us? As in, you and me? Apparently, Lily said with a shrug. What do you think? Should we go? Noah was quiet for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. It could be fun, he said slowly. But Lily, be careful, okay? Amber and her crowd, they're not exactly known for their hospitality. Especially to outsiders. Lily nodded, a mixture of excitement and apprehension swirling in her chest. Will you come with me? She asked, hating how vulnerable she sounded. Noah's expression softened. Of course, he said, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. We'll face the lion's den together. As they walked out of school, making plans to meet up later, Lily caught sight of Ethan watching them from across the parking lot. The look on his face, a mixture of hurt and something darker, sent a chill down her spine. What have I gotten myself into? She wondered, not for the first time since arriving in Millbrook. Little did she know, the party that night would set in motion a chain of events that would shake the foundations of everything she thought she knew about herself, her family, and the true nature of the world she'd stumbled into. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The sun was just beginning to set as Noah's beaten-up Jeep rumbled up the winding driveway to Tyler's lake house. Lily's breath caught in her throat as the sprawling mansion came into view, its windows blazing with light and the thump of bass already audible from inside. Wow, she breathed, taking in the manicured lawns and luxury cars parked haphazardly around the circular drive. This is intense. Noah chuckled, though there was a tension in his shoulders that belied his casual demeanor. Welcome to how the other half lives, he said, pulling into an empty spot. You sure you're ready for this? Lily smoothed down her dress, a simple black number borrowed from Margaret's extensive wardrobe, and took a deep breath. As I'll ever be, she said, mustering a brave smile. As they approached the front door, it swung open to reveal Tyler, red Solo cup in hand and a slightly glazed look in his eyes. Hey, he exclaimed, throwing an arm around Noah's shoulders. You actually came. And you brought the new girl. Awesome. Lily tried not to flinch as Tyler's gaze raked over her, lingering a beat too long. Noah must have noticed her discomfort because he quickly steered them inside, muttering something about getting drinks. The interior of the lake house was even more impressive than the outside. Vaulted ceilings soared overhead, and floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the moonlit lake. But Lily barely had time to take it all in before she was swept into the crush of bodies. Music pulsed through the air, so loud she could feel it in her chest. Everywhere she looked, kids from school were dancing, laughing, and engaging in behavior that would have given their parents heart attacks. The air was thick with the smell of alcohol and something sweeter, more illicit. Here, Noah said, pressing a cup into her hand. It's just soda, he added at her questioning look. Trust me, you'll want your wits about you tonight. Lily nodded gratefully, taking a sip. She was about to suggest finding a quieter corner to talk when a familiar voice cut through the din. Well, Amber drawled, materializing out of the crowd like a vengeful spirit. You actually showed up. And with your little sidekick, no less. How quaint. Lily bristled at the thinly veiled insult, but before she could retort, Ethan appeared at Amber's side. His eyes widened slightly as he took in Lily's appearance, a flash of something, appreciation? Desire? Crossing his face before he schooled his features into a neutral expression. Lily, he said, his voice carefully casual. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Last-minute decision, she replied, suddenly very aware of Noah's presence at her side. Amber invited us. Amber's lips curved into a predatory smile. And I'm so glad you could make it. In fact, we were just about to start a little game. Why don't you join us? Every instinct in Lily's body screamed that this was a bad idea, but she found herself nodding. Sure, she said, hating how eager she sounded. What kind of game? Oh, just a little thing we like to call truth or dare, Amber said, her eyes glittering with malice. But with a twist. Come on, I'll explain the rules. As Amber led them towards a more secluded area of the house, Lily felt Noah's hand on her arm. We don't have to do this, he murmured, concern etched on his face. But Lily squared her shoulders, a newfound determination surging through her. She was tired of feeling like an outsider, always on the defensive. Maybe this was her chance to prove that she belonged. It's fine, she said, offering him a reassuring smile. It's just a game, right? If only she knew how wrong she was. The secluded area turned out to be a plush home theater, complete with tiered seating and a massive screen. A small group had already gathered, Amber's inner circle, Lily realized with a sinking feeling. All right, kiddies, Amber announced, clapping her hands for attention. Here's how this works. We spin the bottle to choose who goes. That person can pick truth or dare. But here's the twist, if you refuse to answer a truth or complete a dare, you have to take off an article of clothing. A ripple of nervous excitement went through the group. Lily's stomach churned, but she forced herself to keep a neutral expression. She wouldn't give Amber the satisfaction of seeing her discomfort. Oh, and one more thing, Amber added, her gaze landing squarely on Lily. Everything that happens in this room stays in this room. We clear? A chorus of agreement rang out. Lily nodded mutely, acutely aware of the weight of everyone's stares. The game started with a palpable tension in the air. Amber spun the bottle first, a wicked gleam in her eye as it slowed to a stop, pointing directly at Lily. Well, Amber purred, her smile reminiscent of a cat toying with a cornered mouse. Looks like our new girl gets to go first. Truth or dare, Lily? Lily's heart raced as she weighed her options. A truth could be dangerous, there was so much she was hiding. But a dare from Amber could be equally treacherous. Truth, she said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. Amber's smile widened. Excellent. Tell us, Lily dear, what's the real reason you came to Millbrook? And don't give us that tired old story about visiting your aunt. We want the truth. Lily felt the blood drain from her face. She glanced at Noah, who looked ready to intervene, then at Ethan, whose expression was unreadable. The room had gone eerily quiet, all eyes fixed on her. She began, her mind racing. The truth is, I needed a fresh start. Things weren't great at my old school. It wasn't a lie, not exactly. But it wasn't the whole truth either. Lily held her breath, praying it would be enough. Amber's eyes narrowed, clearly unsatisfied. But before she could press further, Ethan spoke up. Come on, Amber, he said, his tone light but with an undercurrent of steel. She answered the question. Move on. For a moment, Amber looked like she might argue. But then she shrugged, reaching for the bottle. Fine. Your turn to spin, Lily. The game continued, escalating in intensity with each round. Truths became more probing, dares more outrageous. Lily watched in a mixture of fascination and horror as her classmates revealed secrets and performed increasingly risque acts. It was nearing midnight when the bottle landed on Lily again. This time, it was Tyler who got to ask the question. Dare, Lily said quickly, not wanting to risk another probing truth. Tyler's grin was predatory. I dare you to kiss the hottest guy in the room. And make it count. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She looked around the circle, her gaze landing first on Noah, whose eyes were wide with concern, then on Ethan, who was watching her with an intensity that made her shiver. Clock's ticking, new girl, Amber called out, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. Or are you going to chicken out? Something inside Lily snapped. She was tired of being pushed around, tired of feeling like an outsider. Without allowing herself to overthink it, she stood up, crossed the circle, and pulled Ethan to his feet. For a split second, their eyes met. Then Lily pressed her lips to his. The kiss was electric. Ethan's surprise quickly gave way to enthusiasm, his arms wrapping around her waist and pulling her closer. Lily lost herself in the moment, forgetting about their audience, forgetting about everything except the feel of Ethan's lips on hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the room erupted in whoops and cheers. Lily's face burned as she made her way back to her seat, studiously avoiding Noah's gaze. Well, Amber said, her voice tight with barely suppressed rage. I think that's enough excitement for one night. Party's over, people. As the group began to disperse, Lily felt a hand on her arm. She turned to find Noah looking at her, his expression a mix of hurt and confusion. We should go, he said quietly. I'll drive you home. The ride back to Margaret's house was silent, the air thick with unspoken words. As Noah pulled up to the curb, Lily finally broke the silence. Noah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to dash. Don't, he cut her off, his voice gentle but firm. You don't owe me an explanation, Lily. We're just friends, right? The word friends felt like a knife twisting in her gut. Right, she whispered. As she watched Noah's Jeep disappear down the street, Lily felt a wave of confusion wash over her. What had she done? And more importantly, what did it mean? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next morning, Lily woke to the sound of hushed voices coming from downstairs. She crept to the top of the stairs, straining to hear. Can't keep this up forever, Margaret, her mother was saying, her voice tight with worry. She's going to find out eventually. And what then, Rose? Margaret replied, sounding unusually agitated. Do you really think she's ready for the truth? About her father, about everything? Lily's breath caught in her throat. Her father? She'd always been told he died before she was born. What could they possibly be hiding? Before she could hear more, a floorboard creaked beneath her feet. The voices downstairs abruptly ceased. Lily, her mother called out. Is that you, sweetheart? Come down for breakfast. Forcing a casual expression onto her face, Lily descended the stairs. Margaret and her mother were seated at the kitchen island, both looking suspiciously composed. Good morning, Lily said, eyeing them warily. Is everything okay? Of course, dear, Margaret replied smoothly. We were just discussing plans for the day. How was the party last night? Lily's cheeks flushed at the memory of the kiss. It was interesting, she said evasively. I think I'm going to go for a walk, clear my head a bit. As she stepped out into the crisp morning air, Lily's mind was racing. What were her mother and Margaret hiding? And how did it connect to her father? Lost in thought, she didn't notice the figure approaching until he was right in front of her. Lily? She looked up, startled to find Ethan standing there, looking as though he hadn't slept much either. Ethan, she said, her heart rate picking up. What are you doing here? He ran a hand through his tousled hair, looking uncharacteristically nervous. I couldn't sleep, he admitted. I kept thinking about last night. About that kiss. Lily felt her face grow hot. "Oh," she said softly. "Yeah, that was something." Ethan took a step closer, his eyes searching hers. "Was it just for the dare?" he asked, his voice low. "Or was there something more to it?" Lily opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, a car screeched to a halt beside them. The passenger window rolled down to reveal Amber's furious face. "Get in," she snapped at Ethan. "Now." Ethan hesitated, looking torn. "Amber, I dash." "Now, Ethan," Amber repeated, her voice like ice. "Or have you forgotten our little arrangement?" A look of defeat crossed Ethan's face. He turned to Lily, apology written in his eyes. "I have to go," he said softly. But this conversation isn't over. As Lily watched Ethan climb into Amber's car, a sense of foreboding settled over her. What kind of arrangement could Ethan have with Amber? And why did she suddenly feel like she was in way over her head? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The following week at school was a minefield of awkward encounters and pointed whispers. Rumors about the party and Lily's daring kiss had spread like wildfire. She found herself the subject of curious stares and not-so-subtle gossip. Ethan seemed to be avoiding her, always surrounded by Amber and her crew. Noah, on the other hand, was a constant presence, his quiet support a balm to her frayed nerves. It was Wednesday afternoon when things came to a head. Lily was at her locker, gathering books for her next class, when she felt a presence behind her. She turned to find Amber standing there, flanked by her usual entourage. "Well, if it isn't our little Cinderella," Amber sneered. "Enjoying your 15 minutes of fame?" Lily straightened her spine, determined not to let Amber see her discomfort. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said coolly. Amber's eyes narrowed. "Don't play dumb, sweetie. You might have everyone else fooled with your innocent act, but I see right through you. You're nothing but a gold-digging little nobody, trying to claw your way to the top." The words stung, but Lily refused to show it. "You don't know anything about me," she said, her voice low but steady. "Oh, but I do," Amber replied, a cruel smile playing at her lips. "I know a lot more than you think. About your mother, about why you're really here in Millbrook. And trust me, when everyone else finds out, they'll see you for the fraud you really are." Before Lily could respond, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" Noah appeared at Lily's side, his normally gentle demeanor replaced by a steely resolve. Amber's smile faltered for a moment before returning in full force. "No problem at all," she said sweetly. "Just having a little girl talk." "Right, Lily?" Lily nodded mutely, her mind reeling from Amber's thinly veiled threats. As Amber and her group sauntered away, Noah turned to Lily, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "What was that about?" Lily shook her head, trying to clear the fog of confusion and fear. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I think I need to find out the truth about why I'm really here." Noah's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Lily hesitated, weighing her options. She'd come to trust Noah over the past weeks, finding in him a kindred spirit. If anyone could help her unravel the mystery surrounding her presence in Millbrook, it was him. Taking a deep breath, she made a decision. "Noah," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "there's something I need to tell you. About my family, about why I'm really here. But not here. Can we meet after school?" Noah nodded, his eyes searching hers. "Of course. The old boathouse by the lake? No one ever goes there this time of year." Lily agreed, a mix of relief and apprehension washing over her. As they parted ways for their next classes, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on the precipice of something life-changing. The rest of the school day passed in a blur. Lily barely heard a word her teachers said, her mind consumed with questions. What did Amber know? And more importantly, what were her mother and Margaret hiding? As the final bell rang, Lily made her way to the lake, her heart pounding with each step. The old boathouse came into view, its weathered wood a stark contrast to the sleek modernity of the mansions that dotted the shoreline. Noah was already there, leaning against the railing, his gaze fixed on the gentle waves. He turned as she approached, offering a small smile. "Hey," he said softly. "You ready to talk?" Lily nodded, taking a deep breath. "It's a long story," she warned. Noah's smile widened slightly. "I've got time." And so, as the sun began its descent towards the horizon, Lily told Noah everything. About her life back in the city, about Frank's abuse, about their midnight escape to Millbrook. She told him about the overheard conversation between her mother and Margaret, about the mysterious father she'd never known. Noah listened intently, his expression a mix of sympathy and growing concern. When Lily finally finished, silence fell between them, broken only by the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. "Wow," Noah said finally. "That's a lot to process." Lily nodded, feeling oddly lighter for having shared her burden. "I just don't know what to do," she admitted. "I feel like there's this whole other life, this whole other me, that I know nothing about. And now Amber's threatening to expose something. I don't even know what." Noah was quiet for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. "I think," he said slowly, "that it's time you got some answers. Real answers, not just bits and pieces." "But how?" Lily asked, frustration creeping into her voice. "My mom and Margaret clearly don't want me to know the truth. And I have no idea where to even start looking." A determined look crossed Noah's face. "Maybe you don't," he said, "but I might. My dad, he's a private investigator. He's taught me a thing or two about digging up information. If you're willing to trust me, I think I can help you find the answers you're looking for." Lily felt a surge of hope, tempered by a flicker of doubt. "Are you sure?" she asked. "This could get complicated. I don't want to drag you into my mess." Noah reached out, taking her hand in his. The gesture was so natural, so comforting, that Lily felt some of her anxiety melt away. "You're not dragging me anywhere," he said firmly. "I'm offering. Whatever's going on, whatever the truth is, you don't have to face it alone. I'm here, Lily. For as long as you want me to be." In that moment, looking into Noah's earnest green eyes, Lily felt something shift inside her. It was more than gratitude, more than friendship. It was a spark of something deeper, something that both thrilled and terrified her. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's do this. Let's find the truth." As they began to plan their investigation, neither Lily nor Noah noticed the figure watching them from the shadows of a nearby grove of trees. Ethan Sinclair's face was a mask of conflicting emotions, jealousy, concern, and a deep, abiding guilt. He pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the keypad. He had a choice to make, and he knew that whatever he decided would change everything. Not just for Lily, but for all of them. With a heavy sigh, Ethan made his decision. He dialed a number, his heart pounding as it rang. "Hello?" a gruff voice answered. "It's me," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We have a problem. She's starting to ask questions. And I think she might be falling for someone else." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When the voice spoke again, it was filled with a cold determination that sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. Then it's time to accelerate our plans. Are you prepared to do what needs to be done? Ethan closed his eyes, fighting back a wave of regret. Yes, he said finally. I'll do whatever it takes. As he hung up the phone, Ethan cast one last glance at Lily and Noah, still deep in conversation by the boathouse. I'm sorry, Lily, he murmured. I hope someday you'll understand why I had to do this. With that, he melted back into the shadows, leaving Lily blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to break over her head. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of clandestine meetings and late-night research sessions. Noah proved to be a skilled investigator, teaching Lily the basics of online sleuthing and how to piece together seemingly unrelated bits of information. They started with the basics: birth records, school transcripts, anything that might shed light on Lily's past. But every lead seemed to hit a dead end, as if someone had gone to great lengths to erase any trace of Lily's life before Millbrook. It was Friday afternoon when they finally caught a break. Noah burst into the library, where Lily was poring over old newspaper archives, his face flushed with excitement. I found something, he said in a low voice, sliding into the seat next to her. A photograph, buried in an old society page from 20 years ago. He pulled out his phone, bringing up an image of a yellowed newspaper clipping. Lily's breath caught in her throat as she saw the photo, a group of elegantly dressed people at some kind of charity gala. But it was two figures in the background that caught her attention. Is that? Lily began, her voice trembling as she pointed to two figures in the background of the photograph. The woman was unmistakably a younger version of her mother, Rose. But it was the man beside her that made Lily's heart race. He was tall, distinguished-looking, with familiar green eyes that seemed to pierce through the decades. Noah nodded, his expression grave. I think so. Lily, I believe that's your father. Lily stared at the image, drinking in every detail of the man she'd never known. There was something about his stance, the protective way he held himself next to her mother, that brought a lump to her throat. But who is he? She whispered, more to herself than to Noah. Noah zoomed in on the caption beneath the photo. According to this, the man with your mother is Alexander Hawthorne, CEO of Hawthorne Industries. The name hit Lily like a physical blow. Hawthorne. Just like Noah, she said slowly, turning to face him. Is he related to you? The pained expression on Noah's face told her everything she needed to know before he even spoke. He's my uncle, Noah admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. My father's older brother. But Lily, there's more. Alexander Hawthorne, he disappeared 20 years ago. Right around the time you would have been born. Lily felt as though the ground was shifting beneath her feet. Her father wasn't dead, he was missing. And somehow, inexplicably, connected to Noah's family. Why didn't you tell me? She demanded, a mix of hurt and confusion swirling inside her. Noah ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. I didn't know, he said earnestly. Not until I saw this photo. My family, they don't talk about Uncle Alex. It's like he never existed. I always thought it was just because of the scandal when he vanished, but now. I think there's more to the story. Lily's mind was reeling. If Noah's uncle was her father, that meant. We're cousins, she said, the words feeling strange on her tongue. Noah nodded, a wry smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Looks like it. Although that doesn't explain why your mom brought you to Millbrook, or why my grandmother is pretending to be your aunt. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but the picture they formed was still maddeningly incomplete. Lily stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the library floor. I need answers, she said, her voice filled with a determination she didn't quite feel. Real answers. And I know just where to start. Noah rose to follow her, concern etched on his features. Lily, wait. We need to think this through. If what we've uncovered is true, there are powerful people who've gone to great lengths to keep this secret. We can't just burst in demanding explanations. But Lily was beyond caution. Years of lies and half-truths had built up inside her, and now that the dam had broken, there was no holding back the flood. I'm done waiting, she said, her eyes flashing with a mixture of hurt and anger. I'm going to confront Margaret and my mom. They owe me the truth. As they hurried out of the library, neither Lily nor Noah noticed the figure lurking behind a nearby bookshelf. Ethan stepped out of the shadows, his face pale and his hands shaking as he pulled out his phone. It's happening, he said into the device, his voice tight with tension. She knows. We're out of time. The voice on the other end was cold, calculating. Then we moved to Plan B. You know what to do, Ethan. Don't let your feelings get in the way. Ethan closed his eyes, fighting back a wave of nausea. Understood, he said, before ending the call. As he watched Lily and Noah disappear down the hallway, Ethan felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. He had set the wheels in motion, and now there was no turning back. With a heavy heart, he set off to put the final pieces of the plan into place. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Lily burst through the front door of Margaret's house, Noah hot on her heels. The sound of raised voices from the study made her pause, her hand on the doorknob. Can't keep this from her any longer, Margaret. Her mother's voice, tight with emotion. And what would you have me do, Rose? Tell her everything and put all our lives at risk? Margaret's usually composed tone was ragged with stress. Lily pushed open the door, her eyes blazing. How about you start by telling me the truth? Both women whirled to face her, shock and fear written across their faces. Lily, her mother breathed, taking a step forward. Sweetheart, what are you doing home so early? But Lily was beyond pleasantries. She held up Noah's phone, the damning photograph displayed on the screen. Who is he? She demanded, her voice shaking. Who is Alexander Hawthorne, and why have you been lying to me my entire life? The color drained from Rose's face as she stared at the image of her younger self, standing beside the man who could only be Lily's father. Margaret sank heavily into a nearby chair, her usual poise deserting her. How did you find this? Margaret asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Noah stepped forward, his presence a steadying force at Lily's side. It doesn't matter how we found it. What matters is that you've both been lying. To Lily, to me, to everyone. We deserve to know the truth. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the ticking of the ornate grandfather clock in the corner. Then, with a deep sigh, Rose began to speak. Alexander Hawthorne is your father, Lily. We met when I was working as an intern at Hawthorne Industries. It was a whirlwind romance, and before I knew it, I was pregnant with you. Lily's heart pounded in her chest as she listened, finally hearing the story of her origins after so many years of mystery. Rose continued, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. But Alexander was married. To Margaret's sister, Claire. Noah's sharp intake of breath matched Lily's own shock. Margaret's sister? That would make her. Your aunt, Margaret confirmed, seeing the realization dawn on Lily's face. Your real aunt. Not the fabrication we've been living with these past weeks. But why? Lily demanded, struggling to process this flood of information. Why all the lies? Why did you tell me my father was dead? Rose and Margaret exchanged a look laden with years of shared secrets. It was Margaret who answered, her voice heavy with the weight of long-buried truths. Because Alexander discovered something. Something that put all of our lives in danger. He was working on a revolutionary new technology, something that could change the world. But there were people, powerful people, who wanted to use it for their own gain. What kind of technology? Noah asked, his brow furrowed in concentration. Margaret shook her head. I don't know the details. Alexander was always secretive about his work. But whatever it was big enough that he felt he had to disappear to protect it. And to protect you, Lily. Lily felt as though the room was spinning. Her father hadn't abandoned them, he'd left to keep them safe. But from what? And why now, after all these years, had they come to Millbrook? As if reading her thoughts, Rose spoke up. We've been in hiding all these years, moving from place to place. But recently, I started to feel like we were being watched. Like they'd finally found us. That's why we came here, to Millbrook. I hoped that Margaret could protect us. But why pretend to be her niece? Lily asked, the hurt evident in her voice. Why not just tell me the truth? Because the less you knew, the safer you were, Margaret said softly. We hoped, that by giving you a new identity, we could throw them off the scent. Give you a chance at a normal life. Lily laughed bitterly. Normal? You call lying to everyone, feeling like an outsider, normal? Before anyone could respond, the sound of shattering glass filled the air. Lily whirled around just in time to see a canister roll across the floor, spewing a thick, acrid smoke. Get down! Noah yelled, pulling Lily to the ground as the room filled with the choking gas. Through the haze, Lily could make out the shapes of masked figures pouring through the broken window. She heard her mother's scream, cut short by a dull thud. Margaret's voice, usually so composed, rose in panic before being silenced. No, Lily cried out, reaching blindly for him in the chaos. But her hand met only empty air. As the smoke burned her lungs and darkness crept in at the edges of her vision, Lily's last conscious thought was of the photograph, of the father she'd never known, and the life she'd never had the chance to live. Then, everything went black. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Lily awoke to the gentle beeping of medical equipment and the antiseptic smell of a hospital room. As her eyes fluttered open, she found herself staring at a familiar face, but not the one she expected. Ethan, she croaked, her throat raw and painful. Ethan Sinclair leaned forward, relief evident in his eyes. Thank God you're awake, he said softly. We've been so worried. Lily tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness forced her back down. What happened? Where's Noah? My mom? Margaret? A shadow crossed Ethan's face. There was an accident at Margaret's house. A gas leak. You were the only one we could get out in time. The memories came flooding back, the confrontation, the smoke, the masked figures. No, Lily said, shaking her head despite the pain it caused. No, it wasn't an accident. We were attacked. Where are they, Ethan? What aren't you telling me? Ethan's expression hardened, a coldness entering his eyes that Lily had never seen before. I'm sorry, Lily. But it's better if you forget about all of that. For your own safety. As he spoke, two men in dark suits entered the room. Lily's heart began to race as she recognized the logo on their jackets, Hawthorne Industries. What's going on? She demanded, fear and anger warring inside her. Ethan, what have you done? Ethan stood, his face a mask of regret. I'm sorry, Lily. I truly am. But this is bigger than you or me. Your father's work, it has to be protected. At any cost. As the men approached her bed, syringes in hand, Lily felt a surge of desperate strength. With a cry of rage, she tore the four from her arm and leapt from the bed, dodging past the startled men. She raced down the hospital corridor, her bare feet slapping against the cold linoleum. Alarms blared as she shoved past orderlies and confused patients. Behind her, she could hear the pounding footsteps of her pursuers. Just as she thought she might collapse, a hand reached out from a darkened doorway, pulling her inside. Lily found herself face to face with Noah, his green eyes wild with a mixture of fear and determination. "Noah," she gasped, relief flooding through her. "You're alive. How?" "No time," he said urgently, leading her towards a service elevator. "We have to get you out of here. Your mom and my grandmother are safe, but we don't have long before they realize I've broken you out." As the elevator descended, Noah quickly filled Lily in on what had happened. He'd managed to escape during the attack, and with the help of his father, the private investigator, they'd uncovered the truth about Hawthorne Industries and the technology Lily's father had been protecting. "It's a clean energy source," Noah explained as they emerged into the hospital's underground parking garage. "Something that could end our dependence on fossil fuels overnight. But in the wrong hands. It could be weaponized," Lily finished, the pieces finally falling into place. Noah nodded grimly. "Exactly. That's why your father went into hiding. He knew that if the wrong people got their hands on it, it could change the balance of power in the world." As they reached a nondescript sedan, Noah pulled out a set of keys. "We need to get you to your father," he said, unlocking the doors. "He's the only one who can end this once and for all." Lily hesitated, her hand on the car door. "But what about my mom? Margaret? We can't just leave them." Noah's expression softened. He reached out, cupping Lily's face in his hands. "We're not leaving them. My dad is getting them to safety as we speak. But right now, you're the key to all of this. You're the only one who can convince your father to come out of hiding and set things right." Their eyes met, and in that moment, all the confusion and fear of the past weeks crystallized into something clear and undeniable. Without thinking, Lily leaned forward, pressing her lips to Noah's in a desperate, passionate kiss. When they broke apart, both breathless, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "We'll figure this out," he promised. "Together." As they sped away from the hospital, Lily's mind raced with the magnitude of what lay ahead. She was no longer just Lily Evans, the poor girl from the wrong side of the tracks. She was the daughter of Alexander Hawthorne, the key to a technology that could change the world. And as she looked at Noah, his face set with determination as he navigated the dark streets, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she wouldn't face them alone. The road stretched out before them, leading to an uncertain future. But for the first time in her life, Lily felt a sense of purpose, of belonging. She might not have chosen this path, but she was ready to embrace it and to fight for the truth, no matter the cost. As the city lights faded behind them and the open road beckoned, Lily allowed herself a small smile. The poor girl laughed at by wealthy classmates was gone. In her place was a young woman ready to claim her true identity and change the world. The adventure was just beginning.